This video is a basic introduction to the TI-34 Multiview calculator. So the first thing we need to be able to do is turn this thing on and off. So if your calculator is off and you need to get the calculator on, then you just hit the on button. But you'll notice that there is no off button. So on this calculator there is a lot of text written in gray. For instance, if you look above the mode button, it says quit. And if you look above the on button, written in gray, it says off. To get to any of that gray text, you have to hit the second button first. So if we hit the second button, and then we hit the on button, it turns our calculator off. Alright, so let's turn our calculators back on again. You'll know your calculator's on because there will be this little blinking cursor in your screen. So the first thing we want to do is just perform some basic calculations. And when it comes to basic calculations, the TI-34 Multiview works a lot like any calculator that you've probably used before. So if we look at our sample problems, our first sample problem is 48 plus 79. So we're going to hit 48 plus 79. And you'll notice in the screen it actually shows you the problem that you're about to do, 48 plus 79. You always want to look at your screen because it's very easy to accidentally hit the wrong button on your calculator, and it obviously won't give you the right answer if you don't input it correctly. Once you've typed in the problem that you want to do, what you do is you hit the enter button. There's no equals button on this calculator, so anytime you want it to do a calculation, you hit enter. And it tells us that the answer is 127. So 48 plus 79 equals 127. Now, you could continue to do more calculations. So for instance, sample problem number 2 is 276 minus 84. So we could do 276 minus 84 and hit enter. And that tells us that the answer is 192. Say we start to get confused because there's too much in our screen. Well, it's fairly easy to get rid of what's in the screen by just hitting this clear button, which is right above the division button. If we hit that, our screen gets cleared. So let's just do a few more basic calculations. The third problem says 2,439 divided by 3. So we just do 2,439 and then hit our division button and then our 3. And once again, we hit enter to get the solution. And so 2,439 divided by 3 is 813. Once again, if we want this out of our screen, we just hit the clear button, and that'll get rid of it. Last simple problem we're going to do is 32 divided by 15. So remember, whenever you see the dot in between the two numbers like this, as long as it's not down here to represent a decimal point, when you see a dot, that operation is multiplication. So we want to do 32 times 15 and enter. And it tells us that the answer is 480. So let's go ahead and clear out of that. Now the last thing I want to do in this video is just talk about changing the calculator's mode. So there are a number of reasons why you might want to do this. One of them, the primary reason, is that if I put a fraction in here, let's say we do 50 and then our fraction button, and let's do 100. And if I hit enter, now notice that it just shows this little down arrow, and we'll talk about this more in the fractions videos. But that down arrow means that it needs to be reduced. So you'd have to hit simplify, enter, simplify, enter, simplify, enter. And finally, since there's no down arrow, we know that simplified, it's 1/2. And that's a lot of work. We don't necessarily want to have to go through that every time. What we might like to have is that the calculator will just automatically simplify our fractions for us. And we can do that if we go into mode. So if you go into mode, the first one is just whether it reads in degrees or radians, and we don't have to worry about that. Down here it says float, and that just tells the calculator how many decimals that you want it to display. Float, it will display as many decimals as it can. Here we've got classic and math print. We probably want to keep it on math print because that allows the fractions to show up the way that we would write them down on paper or the way that you would see them in a textbook. If we hit the down arrow, you'll see that the cursor, it's blinking on the various ones. This one here where it says U and then N/D, that's a mixed number. The U represents the whole number portion and the N over D is the fraction. This is just saying that it will automatically give us our answer as a mixed number, so we probably don't want to mess with that one right now. If we went to the ND, it would automatically give us our answers as improper fractions. So let's just scroll down all the way to the bottom. It says MAN simp, so that's man simp for manually simplify your answers. And then this other option is auto simp, and that tells the calculator to automatically simplify our answers. So we're going to actually scroll to that one so that it's blinking, and we're going to hit enter. And now that one's highlighted. Now we'd like to get out of our mode settings, so hit second and then the mode button, because in gray it says quit. So really we're just telling the calculator we want to quit out of that. Now, if I do the same thing, 50, and then my fraction button, and 100, and hit enter, it automatically reduces to 1/2, which is much more efficient.